Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be showing you guys how to install MySQL in Windows and then using that to connect with R in RStudio. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get the installer. So I'm going to download the second option. Alright, so now I'm going to go to my downloads folder. I'm going to select yes. So I'm going to go ahead and install the default version. I'm just going to hit execute. So it looks like it didn't install this driver, but I'm going to go ahead and click next. So we have the server, workbench. I'm going to need this connector. So it looks like we have everything. I'm going to hit execute. So I'll go ahead and pause this video and I'll continue when this is done installing. Alright, so it looks like everything got completed. I'll hit next. I'm going to hit next. I'll hit next again. Hit next. Next. Here's where you're going to set your database password. So go ahead and type that in twice. I'll hit next. I'm going to leave the defaults. I'll hit execute. I'll hit finish. Then we're moving on with the router. I'm going to hit finish. Alright, we're going to move along. Type in your password here. I'm going to hit next. Then I'll just run execute. Alright, and then hit finish. Hit next. And then hit finish. Alright, so this is MySQL workbench. Click on this box. We're going to type in our password. Alright, so I'm going to go to schemas. I'm going to go to create a new schema. I'm going to type data. I'm going to hit apply. Hit apply again. Hit finish. You'll see your data schema here. So this is where we're going to be saving our data. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize this and open RStudio. Alright guys, so in RStudio you're going to want to install ODBC. So the first thing we need to do in RStudio is to establish a connection to MySQL. So you can go to new connection. I'll click on Unicode driver. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Paste it in my script. I'm going to delete this. And then I'm going to type server equals localhost for database. I'm going to type in data, which is the schema we created in MySQL workbench. The user ID. I'll type in root and then password. You'll type in your password as a character here, but I save mine in a new environment to keep it private. And then lastly, for the port, we're going to type 3306. I'm going to run this block. And now we have established a connection. So here are the schemas in MySQL workbench. So let's try and send some data to our database. So I'm going to require quantmod. For ticker, set this to Apple. I'm going to use get symbols. Ticker. For auto assign, we'll set that equal to false. So I'm going to go ahead and run these two lines. So we need to reformat this data to make it database friendly. So I'm going to extract the index. By saving it as a data frame. And then I'm going to convert our stock data into a data frame as well. and I'm going to combine our index with the core data of our stock data. I'm going to replace the column names. I'm going to type date, open, high, low, close, volume, and adjusted. So I'm going to run this block. We'll take a look at our data. So now it's a nice data frame, but if we're going to save this in a data frame, I won't know what ticker this data belongs to. So I'm going to go ahead and add another column with the ticker name by running stock $ symbol equals ticker. So we'll run that line. We'll take a look at stock again. And now we know that this data belongs to Apple. So when I make requests to my database, I'll usually just call in data by the ticker. So if it's a match, it'll return all the data belonging to that specific ticker. Next, we need to assign data types for our columns. So I'll save that as a list. And then for my first column, called date, the data type is just date. My open column is a double, and here I'll put 10, 2, which is 10 integers followed by 2 floating integers. I'm going to go ahead and copy this because it'll be the same for my high, low, close, and adjusted columns. So here I'm just going to paste these. So I'll replace this with high, this with low, this with close, and then I'll paste one for the adjusted. For my volume, I'll set that equal to integer with a max of 25 integers. And then lastly, my symbol will be a variable character with a max of 5 characters. So I'll go ahead and run this line. Alright, so now we're going to send this data to our database. And I'm going to write system time to see how long it takes to actually write it out. And I'm going to use db write table, pass in my connection. The name for this database will be stk. What am I actually sending will be my stock. Field types will be types. Row names, we'll set that equal to false. Looks like I forgot an S. So I'm going to go ahead and run this line. It took approximately 1.08 seconds to write this data into our database. So if we go to MySQL Workbench, I'm going to hit refresh. I'm going to right click on stock and select rows. So now we have our data in our database and it looks like everything was formatted correctly. Alright, let's go back to RStudio. So say you want to keep populating this database, I'll show you how to handle that. So I'm going to copy some of these lines. So here I'm going to request data for Amazon. I'm going to run all these lines. Let's take a look at our data frame. It's formatted the way we want. So I'll start off with copying this line. So instead of sending it to our stock database, I'm going to send it to a temporary database. I'm going to go ahead and run this line. I'm going to go to my workbench to check if it's there. So now it's here under temp. So I'm going to merge my stock database with the temporary database by running db send query. I'll pass in my connection, and then my SQL statement is insert into stock, which is my populated database, and I'm going to select all from temp. I'm going to go ahead and run this line. So here under the console, we see that it actually changed 3,411 rows, which is the number of rows in our stock data frame. And then lastly, I'm going to send another query to drop table temp. So here in our console, we don't see any errors. And if we go to our workbench, we're going to right click and refresh all. We see that our temp table actually isn't there anymore. Now we can check if it actually has Amazon in our database by running this statement. So select all from stock where, and I'm going to use date is greater than or equal to 2020 07 01. I'm going to run this. So here we see Apple stock, and we also see Amazon. So the next thing I'm going to do is create an index for our symbol column, because if this table gets too long, and say we're requesting data for Amazon, without an index, it will actually iterate through each and every row, which is very time consuming, and it'll match all the cases where symbol matches our Amazon ticker or whatever ticker we're requesting. So that will take too long. So we need an index symbol so that when I request data for a certain ticker, it'll grab it automatically. So if we go to our table and we right click, we can go to table inspector, we can go to indexes, and then click on symbol, and we're going to create an index for selected columns. I'm going to hit create. So now we have an index for our symbol column. Alright, I'm going to minimize this, and the last thing we need to do when we're done with MySQL is run db disconnect and pass in our connection string. And if we go to my connections, we actually see that it actually saved our connection string. So if we're trying to reconnect, we can just click connect and hit our console, and then we are connected to MySQL. Or we can always just run our connection string. If you want to disconnect using the connections pane, just click on this red X, select yes, and it'll disconnect. Alright guys, so that was it for how to install MySQL on a Windows computer and connecting it with RStudio. Let me know if you have any questions, and as always, thanks for watching.